Yep, my name is Mike Smith, Mikesmith.
So where do you live, and have you always lived here?
Yep, I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I haven't always lived in Lincoln. I've lived in Omaha, I grew up in a small town, lived in South Dakota, lived in LA for a little bit, and so kind of lived in the Midwest primarily most of my life.
What would you miss if you had to leave Lincoln tomorrow?
What would I miss if I had to leave Lincoln tomorrow? This place, this building, the Bay.
So what is the Bay?
The Bay it's a local community space. It's a nonprofit. I started it 10 years ago. The first location was in a mall, so it was just a skate park in a mall. And then we moved out of there in 2012, and then we relocated into here. And so this place is a skate park, community art space. There's a digital place called The Collective. There's a concert venue in here that had shows of all ages. Pre-COVID, we had all that stuff. But yeah, this is basically a big youth facility, youth space, open till midnight on weekends. And so we serve a real diverse community here. For Lincoln especially, it's a real diverse community. But yeah, it's in large part, it's a big skate culture down here.
Can you kind of geolocate us in the city of Lincoln? Where is this place?
Yeah, we're just off of downtown Lincoln, but we're basically there's kind of like the three most impoverished neighborhoods in Lincoln, and we're kind of smack dab in the middle of one of those three. And so kind of one of the most diverse populations, one of the most transient populations, more languages are spoken in this neighborhood than any other neighborhood. And so we're just very, very low income. The elementary schools and middle schools that surround us are all Title I schools. And so we really serve a community down here.
So what was the genesis? How did you get to this point?
My whole life I've worked with kids. I think I just always wanted to be a kid, and the biggest way to stay a kid is to work with kids. And so from summer camps to after school programs, and then as I got older, I started taking jobs as a social worker and working with at-risk youth on that level. I realized in Lincoln specifically, there was no place for kids to go that didn't connect, like with sports or school or their local, religious organizations, whatever. Like there was just a lot of kids who didn't have that place that they wanted to go to connect. And growing up in greater Nebraska, growing up in a town with no stoplight and no paved road, like no skate park, no skate music and art culture, I really wanted to create a place where kids could express themselves, do what they loved, build a community, give kids that place where they could just fall in love with skateboarding, but have really good friends and stay out of trouble at the same time. And I think what broke my heart was how many good kids I met as a social worker. I was like the judge of teen court, and I'd sit there and watch these kids who were amazing kids. They just didn't always have the best opportunities around them to showcase how amazing they were. And so for us to be able to create a place that can really not just help kids stay out of trouble, but give them purpose and passion and direction and opportunities and mentorship and relationships with people who are positive is always kind of been the goal. And so we've just really I've taken kind of the best of everything I've learned from everywhere I've worked and really put it together in this place. And it's why I think it's so special.
So what is skate culture, and why is this all built around the skate community?
Yeah, and I think at first it was just built around the skate community. Now in a lot of ways we have, skateboarding, music, and art. And so for us it really is that, I don't know, skate culture is just that, we call it counterculture. It's just that counterculture, where it's going against the grain, going against status quo. It's kind of like we were talking about earlier. It's that, we'll wait till that goes by in case, you know how that goes.
Let's pick back up with a question around skate.
Yep.
Skate culture. Just start from the beginning.
For sure.
You're on a good roll. I don't want you to.
No, it's all good. I know how those go.
Yeah, and even so, this is a raw, real time.
I feel you for sure. So when you are media trained, it's hard to be untrained at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay, I need to stop.
Yeah, and you just you instinctively just wait because it's easier just to wait than have to try to edit it out later.
Unless we're in mortal danger, just keep going.
For sure,
right?
I feel you.
I think the authenticity of
yeah.
this is going to come through.
Yeah, and
So what is skate culture, and why did you build that around a community?
Totally. I think skate culture is the ultimate culture of progression and grit, and you don't give up and you don't stop, and it's that push yourself. And for us it was, and skateboarding is a special thing too, where it doesn't care what color you are, it doesn't care where your parents are from, it doesn't care what your GPA is, it doesn't care how much money's in your bank account. It's this piece of plywood with metal and wheels attached to it, and the world is your obstacle. And there's so much creativity in this place, and we built it in a way that a kid could push around and skate it 1,000 different ways if they wanted to. And I think for us it was just skate culture here really is community, and it's that perseverance and it's that fearlessness to try to push yourself to do something that you haven't done before. And I think that's what's so attractive about skate culture.
So So how do you earn your livelihood? How does this all work?
So this is a nonprofit organization that for the last 10 years I haven't even been on staff or been paid to be here. I've been contributing to this from, both being the executive director of it to we formed a nonprofit organization called Rabble Mill now. So the Bay, Skate for Change, and here in Nebraska are all three entities of this big organization. But yeah, I've been a speaker and an author, and I have my own show where I host content for high schools across the world. And so that's how I've primarily earned my money, was traveling and speaking. And I have my own tour, so kids will get bussed in from all across a state or a region and listen to these big leadership events that we do. And so that's been my primary source of income, was creating content and licensing that, and then traveling and speaking and hosting events.
Just adjust the camera angle so it gives you a little bit more room for your hands.
Oh, cool.
You're good. Just this is exactly the energy I was expecting. All right. So, in 2 words or less, how would you describe the year 2020? And explain why you chose those words.
Yeah. I think I would just say, what's next? What's next is where my 2020's been. I think if you're here and you work with people and you've got your Corona hits and it's like, no one's like, I've heard people say, you can't cancel sports. You can't like the things you'll never be able to cancel. And it was like, nope, and so that was crazy. And then everything that's happening with BLM and how ingrained our community is, that's our community. Those are our kids. This is just what we do here. And so for us, I think it's just been, and how important it is right now, and with everything, an election year, the social unrest, people are on unemployment, people are scared, people want to open back up, people don't want to open back up, people want us to open back up, people don't want us to open back up. Like, there's just been so many things you have to think about. We launched a new bakery and coffee shop inside this place like on March 10th, and we closed down on March 13th, or whatever, because of everything. So it's just been crazy. So I think if I had to sum up 2020, I would say, what's next? The PC version of me would say, what's next? The other version of me would say, holy shit, would be my 2020. Yeah.
Jim, describe the moment COVID-19 became real to you, and then how did that make you feel?
The moment COVID-19 became real, when Forrest Gump and Mr. Rogers got coronavirus at the same time, I was like, this isn't a joke anymore. And then the NBA was right on its heels, got canceled. That was when everything changed for me, for sure.
So what was that? How did it affect you?
I was on a flight back from a tour stop. I had literally when coronavirus became real for me, I had just hosted an event. It was like 60 schools in Virginia came together for this leadership event. And it was March, where we were like, well, are we canceling? Are we not? Is it real? Nobody really had a good sense on what was going on. And so we flew out there and we were on the flight back. And I just remember like downloading the Wi-Fi, getting on, like you go on Twitter, and I just like, it was like Tom Hanks has coronavirus. The NBA season is canceled. And it was just like all these dominoes fell. And I think that was like Thursday or Tuesday or Thursday or something. And by Friday, we had to make the decision to close this space. And so it all happened so fast. And you don't really have time to make so what does closing mean? What's your plan? What do you tell your people? What are you going to do next? And so, just closing a business for a short period of time, let alone an indefinite amount of time, is definitely a shocking thing to everyone that's going through it, and you don't have time to prepare for it. You just have to do,
So how did your daily life change, like personal or day to day? What's that look like?
I literally don't know someone who got canceled more than I did. My job is to fly around the world, bringing large groups of high school students together, and where they're like, it's this energy and this hype and this crazy event where it's like everyone's high-fiving and meeting kids from new schools. Like, I'm the most canceled, like assemblies aren't going back. The CDC's not going to gather kids in a gymnasium or people in an event center until a long time. And so I hadn't been in Lincoln, Nebraska for 2 months straight in probably 7 years. So it'd been 7 years since I'd even spent 60 days in a row in my own city. And so this whole time for me has been so bizarre, just with my work life. And I've been working this whole work remote, work from your phone, work digital, everything's a Zoom call. I've been doing that since forever, since it was possible. And so part of the working remote hasn't changed for me, but being home has. And so it's been an interesting model of like physically being here every day versus being here every day, remotely. And it's just been an interesting thing. But yeah, I think the adjustment for me has been crazy. I feel like of the people who got the most canceled, like I'm pretty up there. Like I'm definitely up there.
So what habits and routines have changed for you since the pandemic broke out, and that you think you're going to keep going, regardless of, as things kind of, we come through this. What are you going to keep?
What am I going to keep from this? Everything changed for me. Every habit changed for me. Drastic habits changed. Like my life was, I eat dinner in an airport. Like the places, if I had to think about my last 10 years, like it's always a hotel, a rental car, an airport, and an event center. Then it's a board meeting, phone call, you're running around. Where can you get food? How can you get sleep? Like where, you know what I mean? Like where are you going to mix fun and your social life in the midst of that? And then I came home to Lincoln, Nebraska, and in the pandemic time where it's very calm, very slow, it's a 3-minute drive to work every day. You know what I mean? Like instead of 3 flights to get to another place, And so, but I think the thing that I've taken the most with this time is I feel like I lost 10 pounds instantly because I just started eating a little bit healthier. So that was great. But I think the part that I'm trying to slow down my personal life. And I think what I mean by that is I'm a high energy person and I feed off of momentum. And I think that sometimes in my business life and in my running companies or whatever, that energy is what makes us successful and it's the gas that can make things go. But sometimes in your personal life, I've had to have that same energy. And I think that I've appreciated that I've been able to really slow down doing yoga, slow down reading books, slow down to research things I'm really passionate about. Bought a dirt bike and have just started to figure out how to go through this dirt bike and ride that. Like I'm just trying to slow down my personal life. I know riding a dirt bike doesn't sound like slowing down, but like I'm trying to just appreciate the time I have to learn new things and listen and read and write. And so I hope I can keep that. And my goal is to keep that.
It's all relative, Mike.
Totally, yeah.
When you're 100 miles an hour, 80 is slow. Right?
Yeah.
So what has been the biggest challenge for you throughout the pandemic?
The biggest challenge for us through the pandemic is we serve a very at-risk young population, and it's a lot of young people of color. And so for us, it was like, how do you, when COVID was the conversation, it was like, how do we still serve these kids? How do they still, how do we still get food to them? How do we still, the relationships that are so important to them, how do we help them get through school while they're trying to figure out remote learning when a lot of the kids we work with, we knew didn't have access to that. So we were really in the how do we help our kids get through school? How do we help our kids get through these social and emotional times they're going through because of COVID? And then when BLM hit, we really pivoted and it was like, we recognize what COVID's doing and how we have to adjust, but Black Lives Matter to us it's who we are and it's what we care about. And so we really shifted and it was how can we support specific families. And so we're working towards really opening this place in a private way for the kids who really need this space. And so we can work with their families. And as eviction notices are going to start getting put on doors in the next few months, like we want to make sure that our kids aren't experiencing that as food gets harder to get because resources are going to, when money runs out and some of these families that are going to be hurting first, those are our kids, those are our families. And so we really circled the wagons and thought, let's not provide a public experience like we always have. Let's really stop that. And we're using COVID as a reason to not do that. And we're really focusing privately on the families that are our core kids that really need it, that where we can really have our staff be. It's that thing of right now we're building for depth. We're not building for width because this time has given us an opportunity to sort of rethink what does the fall look like. We're not in this, what does the year look like? Because God only knows what the year looks like. We're really like, what's the fall and how can we program deep in the fall? And that's sort of what we're doing every day down here and what we're thinking about every day down here.
So, how does it compare to any other big challenge that you faced in your life?
How does
COVID?
I don't ever want this to sound terrible. It's hard. Yeah. And you can keep all this, by the way. That's even that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that we are, one thing I am so proud of our people is that we've never been afraid to pivot for the moment. Keep the same mentality, keep the same program, keep the same ethos, but sometimes you have to pivot because of the moment, and we in an instant snapped our fingers and took our programming online. And we have kids skating, literally kids from Hawaii, kids from Minnesota, kids from all across Nebraska are skating with our staff online and they're submitting videos of them skating. And we're still doing skate school virtually. We're still able to engage kids on the internet with music and with art and with, teaching kids drum lessons, teaching kids how to make beats. Like we're doing those things online and our staff pivoted really quickly and we've had a lot of success with it. And so for us, it was this weird thing of, you lose the ability to work with kids IRL, but we pivoted so quickly to build this online programming that's worked so well. We were instantly getting videos and engagement back. So we would do like a how to do a hippie jump video. So our staff would do a hippie jump, and then kids would go in their garage and get a broomstick and 2 bricks and send in their video of them doing a hippie jump, but their mom would be on the other side of the camera like cheering their kid on. So we were getting these incredible moments that we normally would have, but it was just happening on the internet, and that was almost like week 3 of COVID. So we've really figured out how to online program right away. And so there is that sense of, man, we miss our kids and we want them to be in this space and we want them to use this incredible facility, but we also are very thankful that we figured out a way to still engage and still create significant moments of impact. And so, yeah, I don't even remember what the damn question was, but yeah, we're in it still. It's just different.
So how do you think your daily life's going to feel like in 2 years from now?
I think 2 years from now, I feel like there's going to be a real sense of, I think my daily life is going to be a lot less travel, a lot less flying around the world, a lot less hosting big events. I think the reality of COVID is going to change the way that what I used to do gets done. But I also think that I'm not afraid to look at this as a season of my life to pivot my career completely. And so I'm really looking at this as like, every 9 or 10 years, a lot of entrepreneurs, as we talked about, sort of pivot and shift what they were doing. And so I'm kind of taking a big pivot in my career after this. So 2 years from now, I kind of see my whole career looking differently. This place will always be my focus in what I do, but I don't see myself speaking. I don't see myself really traveling. I see myself focusing on trying to create more of these warehouses across the state of Nebraska. And 2 years from now, I really hope that that's where the process is at for us, is creating the next one.
So in the challenges that you see in your work and within the Bay, within the community, what excites you most about solving them?
I think the thing that excites me most about solving challenges in our community is the fact that every time I'm out on the streets with our kids, or when we're skating for, pushing for peace, or on any of these protests that we've done, it's incredible to me when I look into the crowd, how many of those young kids are kids who grew up skating here, grew up playing shows here, who grew up drinking coffee here, and now they're on the streets, demanding change and fighting for what they believe in. And that gives me so much hope that I live in a city where I know who's organizing these protests, and they're kids younger than me. They're kids who came to skate school. You know what I mean? They're kids who taught skate school. And so I'm really proud of just the youth energy and the youth voice in Lincoln. And I love that so many of those kids are kids who I feel like this place was a part of their childhood, or this place is a part of their young adulthood. And it makes me proud to feel like, we're in it with them. And this is a true community center for those kids who feel marginalized and feel like they need a place to go. And so, yeah, I think the thing that gives me hope is Gen Z rules. Like, they're out taking, you've seen all the things. Like, if you think about, like, they get school canceled, they're taking pepper balls and rubber bullets to the face for their classmates, in the face of, like, like these kids are growing up different. And I'm proud that I get to even be a part of hopefully helping usher them into, like, their time to be leaders and their time to be change makers, because Gen Z's got a different flavor to it. You know what I mean?
So what was your reaction to the George Floyd incident? And then what has been your kind of observations and reaction to everyone else's reaction to that moment that all of a sudden brought Black Lives Matter up to the highest level it's ever been?
Yeah. Your instant reaction to the George Floyd thing is it's disgusting and it's disturbing and it's heartbreaking and it's unnecessary and devastating and wrong. Like, watching the George Floyd thing was like all those just anger and a million emotions is what I felt. And then seeing everyone's response to it, if to be super honest with you, there's this level of me that's incredibly proud of some of my friends and some of the people. But I think we've all probably lost a family member or lost a close friend, not to COVID, but to racism, in this time. And I know I have, I truly have lost people that I have no intentions, they can't see how important this moment is and what this moment means and why this matters. And the space in my life for a racist person around me is about none, and especially around these kids and around this place. And I don't have tolerance for it. I don't have time for it. And I don't have any, and that goes for my own family, and so we're on a mission down here to change things. And I think that I've been incredibly inspired and proud of responses, but at the same time, I think this has really shown some of the people that we know in our lives who maybe, I don't know, don't have this perspective of the world that everyone matters and everyone's important and Black lives do matter. And they have, sometimes I think people have a hard time believing that anyone other than themselves matter. And if you can't see that Black lives matter isn't about, you, it's about this. And I think that I just have friends, and maybe that's just the Midwest, and you know what it's like out here, you know, where it's like there's a quiet undertone of like, there's kindness and compassion and empathy, but there's not always like understanding, and I don't know if there's always equity, and I definitely don't think there's equality. And so, yeah, it's just for me, there's a huge level of frustration I have that certain people that I would have expected would understand this seem to be on the wrong side of history right now, and that to me is frustrating. But that just means that there's work to do, and I'm proud of the work that we do. But yeah, I think I've had both responses where I'm like inspired to tears and angered to tears at the same time. You know what I mean? Like it's like both of them for sure.
That's the next 5 years.
1 to 2 words about the next 5 years. How I feel. I'm insanely optimistic. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Is there a question I should have asked you that happened?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, I'd say I think who's this study for?
Well, this is for anyone on the internet who's going to watch this part.
Anyone on the internet's gonna watch this part? Yeah. I would say that if you haven't had your eyes open in the last, we're gonna call this, what month are we in right now? We're in June. This is June, right? June. This is the 700th day of June. Yeah, from March to June, and then whenever you potentially watch this, if you have not recognized how important it is for you to know and understand the names and the stories of like the leaders in your community, and I'm not just talking like the politicians, I'm talking like who are the people of color in your community who are making an impact? Who are the young people in your community who need their voice amplified? Who are young entrepreneurs who are doing incredible things? Like if you don't know your community, I think the thing that's heartbreaking right now is I'm watching people who think they know more about the greater good that's going on in the world than they don't have any concept of how much of an impact they could make locally because they're just not paying attention to it. And then COVID hit, and then Black Lives Matter hit. Now everybody's like, well, who's my city council member? And who's the chief of police? And nobody even knew who these people were before. And it's like all of a sudden you have this local interest. And so what I would say is like, get to know your community, get to know your people, like hold your council members accountable by their first and last name. Like follow them on the internet, pay attention to the policies they vote for. Like if you don't, then like, and if you don't, but you're tweeting things about what makes things better, like you're such a hypocrite. Like if you don't even know the names of the people in your community who are in charge of things, but you're mad, like you need to know these things. And if you're a young person watching this right now, like, you have the biggest voice right now because you understand how the internet works. And so go get it done. But I think know your local people, not just politicians, but like local influence, local leaders, local businesses, local kids, local coaches, local teachers, like who are those local change makers, and like know them because they're the ones that are they're the ones who are stepping up in these times to lead their people. And you want to be a part of that if you're a true community member, or you can sit at home on the couch all day and watch the news. Like those are your options, you know?
Final question. This is on the internet, so we don't know when someone's going to watch it. We don't know where someone's going to watch it, but someone's watching it right now.
Yep.
What's the message that you want to give to them in this moment?
Every single one of us has a chance to pour a ton of positive energy into what's happening right now. There are a million ways you can help the COVID crisis in your community if there is one. And if there's not, maybe you're one of those communities where there isn't, then there's a million things you can do to help young marginalized kids right now. And if you don't think that there are kids like that in your community, you're crazy. I don't care if you grew up in a small town in the middle of nowhere and it's just a bunch of white people. There are kids in that community who don't fit. You have an opportunity to do something. You might be in a massive city where it's super diverse, like all the more reason for you to get involved. But if you're watching this right now, there's a lot of young people in our communities who really need adults, people who care, people who are interested in giving them an opportunity at upward mobility. And I would just say, like, at some point, there's a huge demographic of people who have to stop watching and start doing. And that's what I would say.